Discover the heartwarming truth, how Japan's death row inmates face life-changing treatment. Jason sat at the dinner table, staring at the uneaten food on his plate. The warm laughter of Mia and Caleb filled the air, their giggles weaving a bright tapestry of innocence that contrasted sharply with the heavy weight resting on his chest. Just a week earlier, he had been sweating under the hood of an old pickup truck, surrounded by the oily scents of his small-town mechanic shop. Now, that very shop was gone, shut down after years of struggle, leaving him without the job that had defined him. He glanced at Linda, her smile unwavering, yet he could see the flickers of worry dancing behind her hazel eyes. The faint sound of fireworks crackling outside hinted at the upcoming 4th of July celebration, reminding him of better days when their little town buzzed with life and hope. But as laughter surrounded him, Jason felt a dull ache, the gnawing reality of their situation creeping in. How would he provide for his family? His thoughts spiraled until they came upon an unexpected source of inspiration, a documentary he had stumbled upon, showcasing how Japan compassionately treated death row inmates rather than punishing them. Can you believe it? He had thought. Treating those who had done wrong with dignity, giving them a chance for change. It ignited something deep within him, a spark amid the darkness that seemed to close in. It made him think of his community, how they had lost their way, how anger and despair were swallowing them whole. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jason decided to take action. With a newfound purpose, he began to rally support for an idea he couldn't quite believe himself. A fundraiser promoting prison reform, a platform advocating for second chances. He believed it was time their town started healing from the inside out. He envisioned a place where their children's laughter could drown out the shadows of despair that clung to them like a thick fog, but as he shared his vision with townsfolk, skepticism stonewalled him. Are you crazy? A neighbor shouted, they don't deserve kindness. Every attempt to share his heart was met with divisive stares and uneasy whispers. Rumors swept through the community, burdening his family as they prepared for the town's annual 4th of July celebration. Tension hung thick in the air, the barbecue smoke mixing with long-held beliefs about justice. Things came to a head when Caleb, his sweet son, fell prey to bullies at school. Your dad's just a softy for convicts. They taunted. Jason's heart shattered. During one family dinner, after Caleb shared his hurt, the walls of their home felt too small to contain the intensity of their emotions. They discussed values they hoped to instill: compassion, resilience, and standing up for what's right, all while wrestling with their own biases. In a moment of vulnerability, Jason stood up, preparing to confront the town in a meeting. He felt the specter of judgment in the crowd, so many faces reflecting biases and fears. But with every word, he caught a glimmer of hope. After what felt like an eternity, he poured out his story, revealing the injustice he had once faced as a forgotten mechanic striving for recognition. As he spoke, the energy in the room shifted. Caleb, emboldened, stood up. He shared his truth, his voice trembling but strong. Everyone deserves a chance, he pleaded. Would his father's dream break through the cynicism, or would they remain trapped in their rigid beliefs? The air crackled with uncertainty as the crowd buzzed, leaving everyone on edge. What would happen next? Jason stood there, heart racing, as Caleb spoke. His son's words echoed off the walls, flooding the room with a mix of dread and hope. The quiet buzz of the crowd felt electric, each person processing the weight of Caleb's plea in their own way. It was as if the air had thickened with tension, and yet, there was a slow, tentative change brewing. One by one, heads began to nod. It started with Mrs. Thompson, the librarian, her kind eyes glistening with unshed tears. He's right, she murmured, her voice barely a whisper but powerful enough to ripple through the crowd. People do deserve a second chance. Even if they make mistakes. A murmur of agreement swelled, voices rising in a chorus of uncertain support. Some clutched their chairs in disbelief, while others shifted closer, drawn to the raw honesty hanging in the air like a charged balloon. Jason dared to meet Caleb's gaze, pride swelling in his chest. He sensed a shift, an opening. His son had sparked a light in the darkness. What we need, Jason spoke, his voice steadier, bolder now, is to be brave enough to embrace that idea. We can't fix what's broken by building walls. We fix it by building bridges. The words washed over him, bolstering his resolve. As he scanned the audience, he caught glimpses of guarded corners softening. Acceptance began to glimmer in faces of those who had once scorned him, yet not everyone was convinced. In the back, Rick, a former police officer, crossed his arms defiantly. So what? You want us to coddle criminals? Look how many lives they've destroyed. His voice was heavy with anger, echoing the sentiments that had long governed their town. The room darkened momentarily. Jason felt the air thicken again, like a storm closing in. But amid the tension, his family's unwavering courage danced in his mind. He thought of the laughter at dinner, the warmth of their home, and the love that had helped them withstand adversity. Rick, Jason began, I know it's hard. I know we all want justice. But we also want healing. We've all made mistakes, right? I've had my share of failures as a mechanic and as a father. We're all works in progress. Jason's voice rose above the tension, trying to lead them to a path of understanding. Let us ask ourselves, as a community, what kind of legacy we want to leave for Caleb and Mia. Is it one filled with hate and fear, or one that allows for growth and understanding? Caleb, fueled by his father's words, took a step forward. What if we could show people that change is possible? That love can transform lives, even for those who've lost their way. His young heart beat firmly, each word more powerful than the last. A ripple of silence swept through the audience, pregnant with thoughts. Some exchanged glances, whispering under their breaths, wrestling with the change spinning in the air. Just then, Linda stood up, her voice unwavering, You're not alone in this, Jason. We believe in what you're saying. We want change, real change, in our town. Her declaration acted like a match strike, igniting hope amongst the uncertainty. Jason felt a warmth rush through him, surprising and uplifting. Perhaps together they could forge a new path, but before he could formulate his next words, Rick mumbled, and what if it doesn't work? What if they just slip back into their old ways? The doubt hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Jason took a breath, feeling a mixture of fear and determination. He knew they had a long road ahead. There were no easy answers, but they had to start somewhere. Then we try again. And again, Jason said firmly. Every day is a chance to do better, to choose love over hate. We owe it to ourselves, our kids, and those who need a second chance. As he looked around the room, Jason saw hesitant smiles forming, a shift transpiring among the folks who had once stood against him. A hush fell over them as the crowd began to whisper, voices rising and falling like the gentle ebb and flow of the tide, crackling with potential energy. But as excitement grew, Jason's heart remained heavy. Was this enough? Was it truly the beginning of a change, or merely a flicker that would quickly die out? The meeting was far from over. As doubts whispered in the corners of his mind, Jason felt the weight of possibility pressing firmly on his chest, urging him to keep fighting. What would happen next could either bridge their community or deepen the divides even further. As the room held its breath, one question loomed large: could they overcome their fears and embrace a shared vision for a better tomorrow? The tension in the room reached a fever pitch as more voices added to the symphony of uncertainty. Jason looked from face to face, searching for assurance that hope could exist alongside fear. The truths they carried were heavy, the scars of loss and betrayal lay etched in their expressions. He inhaled deeply, feeling the weight of his mission pressing down on him. Change isn't just an idea, Caleb interjected, his youthful enthusiasm shining through the heaviness. It's something we have to live. Every single day. His sincerity caught the attention of the previously disengaged. Turning heads and unlocking gazes, it was as if Caleb had flung open a door that had long been shut. Mrs. Thompson leaned closer, nodding earnestly. "You're right, Caleb," she affirmed, her voice growing stronger. "We can't just talk about compassion, we have to show it. People are looking for something to believe in again." Rick shifted in his seat, his frown deepening. This time, though, he seemed less certain in his resistance. "So you think we can just forget about the past?" he challenged, but there was a hint of vulnerability lacing his words, as if a crack had formed in his concrete resolve. "No, Rick," Jason replied, his voice steady but soft. "We can't forget. But we can acknowledge the pain and work to build something better from it." He gestured to the crowd, his hands sweeping over their faces, not just as neighbors, but as partners in this journey. "We owe it to our children to make that choice on their behalf. Every child in this town deserves to grow up in a safer, kinder place." As if struck by an eagerness for change, one of the younger members of the community, a girl named Sarah, stood up. "What if we organized a community event? A weekend where we can all come together, meet those who've made mistakes but are trying to get better." Her voice trembled slightly, filled with a cautious excitement. "We could show everyone that people can change." The idea rippled through the audience like a wave crashing on the shore, gathering momentum. Faces began to light up, and a few started murmuring suggestions. "We could have a potluck," Linda called out, her eyes bright. "And invite local organizations who help rehabilitate people." Jason felt his pulse quicken with a mix of hope and apprehension. This was the spark they needed, but he knew the road would still be fraught with challenges. "That's a fantastic start," he agreed, "but we must tread carefully. We can't just throw an event without addressing the realities first." Caleb stepped forward again, his innocence shining. "What if we invite some of those people, too? They can tell their stories. It might help us understand." The quiet that followed Caleb's words was filled with understanding. Jason watched as people's eyes glimmered with the prospect of connection rather than division. The potential felt almost palpable, vibrating in the air around them. Yet, Rick remained guarded, a storm still brewing in his expression. What if it backfires? What if it makes things worse? Jason's heart invited him to rally the crowd. It's true. Nothing is guaranteed in life. But if we never try, we'll never know. Think about our kids. Are they not worth the risk? A murmur of reflection swept through the crowd as they considered his words. Those in attendance were beginning to transform, their collective consciousness shifting from doubt to possibility. But as they contemplated that leap of faith, Jason felt uncertainty creep back in. There was a fine line between hope and naivety. Could they build enough bridges where walls had existed for so long? Did they truly have it in them to nurture change? Just then, the old clock on the wall ticked loudly, reminding everyone of the urgency of time. They would need to decide soon or risk losing this moment. As Jason surveyed their faces, one question emerged louder than the rest: were they ready to step into the unknown and embrace the potential for a new beginning? As the murmurs settled, a hush enveloped the room, each person grappling with the weight of the moment. Jason's heart raced, driven by a surge of urgency. This was it, this was where they could either plunge into uncertainty or reach for something transformative. "Let us decide today," he prompted, his voice firm yet inviting. "We don't need to have all the answers right now. We just need to take that first step." He locked eyes with Rick, the line of resentment etched on his face softening just a bit. "What do you think, Rick? Can you see a future where we rise together instead of staying stuck in the past?" For a heartbeat, it felt as if time stood still. Rick shifted uncomfortably but finally uncrossed his arms, his posture relaxing. I don't know." His voice was low but laced with a hint of vulnerability. "What if we go through all this trouble and it falls apart? Then we learn and try again." Mrs. Thompson spoke up again, her voice resonating with warmth. Every effort counts. And by showing our kids that we're trying, we give them a real lesson in resilience. Jason felt an electric current pulse through the room at her words. There was something profound about showing their children the beauty of trying, even if it meant stumbling along the way. It was a lesson he wished he had learned sooner. Let us make this something memorable. Caleb exclaimed, his enthusiasm contagious. Let us call it Hope Fest. A weekend full of stories, food, and just coming together as a community. We can even set up a wall of hope where everyone writes down what they aspire to change. The excitement surged, igniting laughter and cheers. People began to talk over each other, sharing ideas regarding activities and inviting local musicians to add color to the event. With every suggestion, a sense of unity blossomed. Jason could see the walls of doubt crumbling, piece by piece, but Rick still held back, his expression swinging between skepticism and intrigue. I just don't want to open old wounds without healing first. What if those stories bring pain? This was Jason's chance. But healing can only start when we face the truth together, Rick, he said softly. Those narratives can empower us. They don't have to divide us. It's our choice to decide how we respond. Rick stared at Jason, his eyes searching for reassurance. Moments passed, and then, slowly, he drew a breath. Okay, maybe it is worth a shot. A tide of relief washed over the room, and the shift in energy grew palpable. They were ready to dare, ready to invite the world in. As hands began to rise to volunteer, Jason felt hope swell in his chest, a feeling more powerful than he could have imagined. Suddenly, the striking chime of the clock broke through the warmth of the moment, reminding them all of the importance of moving forward. They still needed a plan. They needed commitments, details, but more importantly, they needed to surround themselves with those who believed in change. Let us make a list, Jason shouted, enthusiasm bubbling up in him. Everyone write your name next to a task you'd like to help with. But just as the plan started to flesh out, the door swung open. A figure loomed in the doorway, silhouetted against the dim light from the hall. The atmosphere shifted, a collective pause washing over the crowd. Sorry to interrupt, but I think we need to talk, the stranger's voice carried urgency as they stepped into the room. The tension suddenly felt heavy again, uncertainty creeping back in. Jason's heart sank. What could this mean? Did someone bring more troubles to their evening of newfound hope? Or was this the very connection they needed to leap forward? The stranger stepped further into the room, revealing bright eyes that danced with unfamiliar energy. With tousled hair and an air of urgency, the tension seemed to shift again, this time toward a strange curiosity rather than fear. Who are you? Jason managed, his gaze darting from the figure to the familiar faces around him, searching for a reaction. I'm Mia, she replied, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. I heard you all talking about making changes and trying to heal, and I think I might have something to share. Something that could help. Rick tilted his head slightly, still apprehensive. Help with what, exactly? Mia took a deep breath. I work with a group that helps communities through transformative projects. We've helped people like you who want to face their pasts, to build something beautiful from pain. If you're really serious about the Hope Fest, we can show you ways to make it not just a one-time event but a powerful catalyst for change. Whispers erupted around the room, a blend of excitement and skepticism. Jason felt an undeniable pull toward Mia's words. There was a chance here, a real chance to uncover something deeper and challenge the doubts that had plagued them. Are you saying that what we want to do can actually make a difference? Caleb asked, bright-eyed. Because that would be incredible. Absolutely, Mia affirmed, nodding her head emphatically. We've set up installations, workshops, everything imaginable to transform pain into power. It's about sharing stories, but also about healing together. We can show you what works and guide you through it. Skepticism still hung in the air, but now twinkling with glimmers of hope. Jason could see the gears turning in Rick's mind, the conflict between fear and curiosity evident in his furrowed brow. What would it take? Rick asked finally, his voice tinged with an unexpected resolve. Mia smiled, her warmth palpable. Just a willingness to be vulnerable and to reach out to those who've been hurt. You might just find that those wounds can become a source of strength. Jason leaned forward, feeling a surge of excitement. We want to do this. We want to learn. We want that change. Around the room, tentative nods began to form, hesitance melting away in the light of possibility. But just as the notion of collaboration started to solidify, a sudden, distant sound broke the air, a mix of shouts and chaos from outside the building. The joyful energy that had filled the room flickered, replaced by a sense of dread. Everyone turned towards the door, hearts racing. What is happening? Someone whispered, fear creeping in. Mia's expression transformed, urgency seeping into her voice again. It sounds like trouble. We need to figure out what is going on. Stay close. The room became charged with anxiety, nerves on edge. Jason felt his heart pound against his ribs. Nothing had ever come without challenges, but now the stakes felt even higher. Could they still push forward with their plans, even as chaos surged around them? Amid uncertainty and danger, would their dreams of change slip away, or could this unexpected turn lead them to something even greater? Determined to protect the fragile hope blossoming within, Jason stepped forward, ready to face whatever lay beyond those doors. But as he did, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something incredibly profound, something that would test them in ways they couldn't yet imagine. The noise outside had escalated into a cacophony. It was a mix of shouting and what sounded like a distant siren. Jason's gut twisted as he caught a glimpse of shadowy figures through the building's windows, moving chaotically. Do we need to go outside? Rick asked, voice tense. I feel like we should know, Mia interrupted, her tone firm. We need to stay put for now. We can't jump into the fray without knowing what we're dealing with. Jason felt electric energy surge through the room, mingling with anxiety. He looked around at Rick, Caleb, and the others, their faces a mirror of fear and determination. Caleb straightened up. We can't let this stop us. We've gone too far already. If Mia has a plan, let us hear it. Jason nodded, feeling a spark of courage. It was true. They had just begun to find a flicker of hope, and now it felt at risk of being snuffed out. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. Mia's right. We need to focus. If we work together, we can find a way through this. Mia met his gaze, her expression shifting from urgency to one of admiration, as if she saw that familiar spark of leadership in him. Yes. Let us regroup and think about what steps to take. The chaos outside may be a distraction, but if we remain united, we can harness this energy. Jason looked at the others, and an idea formed in his mind. What if we channel that energy? Maybe this commotion is our opportunity. People are stirred up. If we show them that we care, it could deepen our cause. That's it. Caleb shouted, his spirit rising. We can stand together out there. Show them that we're not afraid and that what we're doing, a festival of hope, matters now more than ever. Rick still appeared hesitant, the shadows of doubt lingering. But what if it gets dangerous? We don't know what is happening out there. Exactly. Mia interjected, her eyes gleaming with determination. That's why we have to show strength together. If people see us standing tall despite the noise and chaos, it might inspire them to let go of their anger and join us instead of fighting against it. Jason felt something shift dramatically inside him, a reassurance mixed with purpose. They had a choice to make. They could bury their heads and live in fear, or they could step into the storm and let their voices be heard together. Okay then, Jason said, his voice rising as it steadied. Let us go outside. Let us show them who we are and what we stand for. We're not hiding. We're here to bring hope. The air crackled with emotion as they prepared to move, hearts pounding not only from fear but a growing sense of purpose. As they filed towards the exit, each step felt like a promise. They were rising to meet the chaos instead of running from it, once gathered at the door, Jason paused, taking a moment to scan the faces around him. There was solidarity now, a group bound by shared pain and resilience. They could do it. They would do it. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from outside, followed by scattered peers of frightened faces reflected in the glass. Jason's heart raced. This moment would mark their commitment, but the choice before them suddenly felt heavier than ever. "Are we ready?" Mia asked, stepping closer to the door. "Let us do this," Jason affirmed, pushing it open. As the door creaked, Jason braced for whatever awaited them. The world beyond felt uncertain, but so did their dreams. What would they face? Would their spark of hope ignite something transformative, or would it flicker out in the shadows of chaos just beyond their grasp? As Jason pushed the door open, a rush of frigid air hit him like a wave. The sight that met their eyes was both shocking and surreal. Outside, the streets had transformed into an uproar. People filled the area, some shouting, others crying, and many with their fists raised. It was a dynamic tapestry of human emotions, from fear to anger, but above it all, there was a flicker of something else, hope. Before them stretched a sea of faces, some familiar, others unknown. They were all searching for answers, for strength, for a sign that they weren't alone in this chaos. Jason felt an almost magnetic pull toward them. He looked at Mia, who stood at his side, her hand gripping the doorframe as if it could anchor her to reality. "Look at them," Jason said, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "They're here to be heard, just like us." Caleb nodded, stepping up beside Jason. "This is our moment. We can't back down now." Rick lingered at the door, hesitating. "But what if we become part of the chaos? What if we get hurt?" "Then we get hurt together," Mia replied with fierce conviction. "But we can't let fear paralyze us when there's so much at stake. Different struggles unite us." Taking a deep breath, Jason stepped fully outside, feeling the energy of the crowd wash over him. The sound of chants echoed around him, a rhythm that pulled them in like a tide. He was anxious but also exhilarated. This was the moment they had prepared for, the exact point where determination met action. The group moved ahead like a single entity, driven by a shared purpose. Near the forefront, people had gathered, holding homemade signs proclaiming messages of solidarity and peace. The air was heavy with anticipation, mixed with a tension that felt electric. "Let us join them," Caleb exclaimed as they found their place at the front. Together, they raised their own signs, symbols of hope drawn with shaky hands but filled with heart. Jason grasped a sign tight in his own, glancing back at Rick, who finally exhaled and took a step forward into the throng. "If we're going to do this," he smiled slightly, revealing a glimpse of his trust in them, "then I'm all in." The crowd responded. A collective shout rang upward, a call for unity. "Hope! Hope!" They chanted, and it resonated deep in Jason's chest. It was as if each cry pulled at threads of despair, weaving them instead into something magnificent. Mia raised her voice, capturing everyone's attention. "We are not just bystanders in this. We're here to change the narrative, to show that hope is powerful, even amid chaos." As their voices harmonized with the chants, Jason could see the apprehension melting away from his friends' faces. Hearts were swelling around him, and for the first time in a long while, he felt like they were part of something greater than themselves. In that moment, it was clear, they weren't just confronting chaos. They were sowing the seeds of transformation, one chant at a time. But just as inspiration surged, a deafening sound echoed through the air, a sharp crack followed by panicking screams. Jason's heart sank as the crowd began to scatter. Something had shifted, and the air that was once filled with hope now prickled with fear. "What just happened?" Jason exclaimed, trying to process the urgent chaos erupting around them. The realization dawned on him: they had unleashed their voices, but now faced a new challenge with unknown dangers lurking in the clamor. As he exchanged frantic glances with Mia and the others, he couldn't shake the feeling that this moment would change everything. But how? Would they rally together, or would fear divide them? With uncertainty hanging thick in the air, Jason knew that they were on the brink of either triumph or turmoil. But their journey was far from over, and they would have to dig deep within themselves to find the courage to face what was still to come. What lay ahead? Would they be heroes in their own story, or would they falter when the stakes were highest? The sound of chaos was everywhere now. Jason's heart raced as the crowd surged, a wave of panic crashing against his resolve. People stumbled over each other, trying to escape the noise, the fear, the uncertainty. The initial promise of hope now felt fragile, like a bubble waiting to burst. "Mia, we have to stick together," Jason shouted, his voice strained against the uproar. He reached for her hand, feeling the warmth of her skin amid the coldness that surrounded them. She nodded, but her eyes darted around, scanning the tumultuous scene for signs of danger. Caleb was already moving, his determination undeterred. "Come on. We can't let them divide us. We need to show that we're still here, that we won't back down." He lifted his sign higher, as if it was a shield against the tension that had taken over. "Don't lose sight of why we're here," Mia yelled, rallying the fading spirits around them. Words poured from her, fueled by the energy surging through her veins. "This isn't just about a moment. It's about everything we believe in. We stand for each other." Jason watched as a few people near them, their faces lined with panic, looked back at Mia, beginning to regain their strength. That spark of resilience ignited something deep inside him. They had come here to amplify their voices, to be part of a change, and they couldn't let fear stifle that. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the throng. A police officer stood tall, his uniform stark against the chaos. "Everyone, please disperse," he commanded, his voice booming over the din. The crowd hesitated, uncertainty pooling in the air. "This is an unlawful gathering." "What? No," Rick protested, stepping forward. "We have a right to be here. You can't silence us." His voice shook slightly, but his conviction was clear. Jason felt the swell of urgency rise within him. "We can't back down. We're standing for our beliefs," he shouted as he gripped the sign tighter, its flimsy cardboard feeling like a lifeline. Mia's eyes lit up with fierce determination. "We have to make them hear us." She turned back towards the crowd, a beacon amidst the uncertainty. "We are not criminals. We are voices. We are hope. Together, we are powerful." And with that, something shifted in the crowd. People began to gather again, moving toward the front, each ready to stand their ground. Jason felt the energy return, pouring into him like a steady stream of courage. Suddenly, the sharp crack that had pierced the air before erupted again. Jason's instincts kicked in, and he dropped low instinctively, pulling Mia and Caleb with him. The crowd erupted into screams once more, and Jason's mind raced. They could not let fear win. "Stay down. Keep moving forward," he urged, pushing up from the ground, adrenaline coursing through him, but it wasn't just his voice that guided them. Each call for unity was answered with shouts of strength, defiance filling the air as others echoed Mia's plea. As they moved back to the forefront, Jason dared to look around. Faces once twisted in fear now reflected resolve. "Together, we rise against fear." Jason led the chant, and it spread like wildfire. He felt powerful, a part of something significantly bigger than himself. Each shout felt electrifying, like a fist raised high against an indifferent universe. With every heartbeat, it was clear, they were warriors of hope, navigating through the storm. Yet, in the back of his mind, doubt lingered. What if their courage wasn't enough? What if the louder they shouted, the harsher the response would be? And just then, a flash of light pierced through the chaos. Cameras were rolling, capturing every raw moment. Would they be ready for the world to see them as they truly were? Brave, hopeful, and unyielding. Or would the coverage twist their story into something they hadn't intended? The journey wasn't over yet. And as he wheeled around to face the crowd, he realized the most significant challenge was still to come. Would they stand firm and face the truth, whatever it may be? The roar of the crowd swelled, and Jason felt it wash over him like a tidal wave, pushing him forward. The energy pulsed, igniting a fire within him that felt impossible to extinguish. Mia's hand tightened around his, grounding him amidst the chaos. "Just keep moving," Caleb urged, his voice rising above the din. As they forged ahead, Jason spotted the officer again, his stance firm, but uncertainty danced in his eyes for just a moment. A fleeting glance shared, a question lingered: could he see the humanity in the crowd? Or was he already numb to their cries? Mia's voice cut through the noise, fierce and unwavering. "We're not leaving. This is our moment to stand together." Jason caught the spark in her eyes, the fierce will driving her. It reminded him of those late-night talks they had over coffee, dreaming of a better world, envisioning change. Now, here they were, fighting for it, and he couldn't let her fire dim. A chant rose again, louder and more powerful than before, echoing off the buildings that surrounded them. "Together, we rise against fear." It felt like a heartbeat, synchronized and strong. He joined in, feeling the vibration of their voices reach deeper than words, a primal instinct, their collective anthem, but in the back of his mind, doubt still lurked like shadows, whispering unknown outcomes. What if this backfired? What if all this energy led to chaos rather than change? Just then, he felt a shove. A man behind them fell forward, panic etched on his face. The crowd surged again, and Jason instinctively reached out, grabbing the man's arm. "Get up. We're moving." Eyes wide, the stranger nodded, his gratitude visible but momentary. Jason didn't have time to think. They were a unit, and falling wasn't an option, but as the crowd swayed like a living organism, Jason couldn't shake the feeling that they were teetering on the edge of something monumental. Fear and strength colliding in a dance as chaotic as the city around them. Would they be able to hold that ground? Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted again. A loud bang sounded in the distance, followed by a chorus of shrill screams. Instinct kicked in, adrenaline pulsing through him. The crowd became a cacophony of fear and confusion. "Stay together," Jason shouted again, his voice ringing out as he felt Mia's grip tighten in response. The signs that had held words of hope were now held almost as barricades. "Don't let them scatter us." Caleb turned back, determination etched onto his features. "We need to reverse this. Rally the ones who've been pushed down." The chant began to fade and a rare silence blanketed them, holding its breath in anticipation. Jason took a moment, heart thumping, to initiate the next move. "If we're going to face them, we need to do it with purpose. We're here to change hearts." At that moment, a surge of clarity rushed over him. This was more than about protesting, this was about humanity. It was about being seen, understood, and embraced. It was about standing shoulder to shoulder to prove that their voices mattered. "Ready?" He shouted into the dwindling chaos, waiting for an answer that never came, and just as he prepared to lead them into the unknown, he felt the ground shake beneath them, that feeling of everything spiraling out of control. An unsettling dread set in, tainted with the scent of smoke wafting through the air. Mia gasped, her eyes wide with realization. He turned, following her gaze toward the horizon. Dark clouds rolled in, and he braced himself. What if the storm wasn't just external? What if it was about to engulf everything they had fought for? With hearts racing and spirits on the brink of shattering, they had to decide, would they succumb to fear once more, or stand unwavering in their resolve? As the winds howled in their ears, another truth crashed upon him: change was awfully dangerous. But what was the cost of silence? The moment of decision loomed ahead, and Jason knew this was just the beginning. Would they find the courage to withstand the coming storm? The moment hung in the air like a thundercloud, full of tension and unspoken fears. Jason gripped Mia's hand tighter, heart racing as he surveyed the crowd. It was a unified mass of humanity, each face a reflection of the struggle they were all part of. They had come together, yet they now faced a storm that threatened to tear them apart. "Remember why we're here," Jason shouted, his voice trying to penetrate the weight of the moment. "We're here to stand for our future, for our children. We won't succumb to fear." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, rekindling a spark within the sea of uncertainty. He could feel the energy shifting again, faces lifting with newfound determination. But still, the dark clouds rolled overhead, anxiety creeping just beneath the surface. Suddenly, Caleb shouted, "Let us turn this fear into hope. Let our voices drown out the chaos." His innocent defiance echoed with a truth that pierced through the wavering confidence. "We rise!" Mia cried, joining her brother's resolve, and the chant spread like wildfire. "We rise! We rise! We rise!" Jason felt his chest swell with pride. Empowered by their unity, it was a declaration that carved through the chaos. Rick, who had stood uncertain until now, felt the shift within him too. He straightened his shoulders, stepping forward. "We can't hide from fear. Let us meet it head-on." With that small declaration, he climbed to the front, joining the chorus. The crowd surged forward, pulsing with emotion. The air thickened, charging with a raw intensity. Jason's heart pounded, not just from fear but exhilaration. They were confronting something larger than their fears, something magnificent. Soon, the distant chaos faded as their collective cries filled the air. "Change is coming. Change is now." It felt powerful, igniting the very ground beneath them. Faces glowed with determination. Hope was more than just a word, it was a living thing, and they were nurturing it together. In that moment, as the wind howled and sinister shadows danced around them, Jason felt transformed. The past weeks of turmoil and doubt fell away, replaced with a firm resolve. They could be better. Together. This was not just a moment, it was the start of a movement. Then, as if sensing their indomitable spirit, the skies began to clear. What had looked like an impending storm seemed to dissolve into a delicate light, illuminating their path. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. "Look!" someone shouted, pointing towards the horizon where the sun broke through dark clouds, casting rays of vibrant warmth over their gathering. Caleb's jaw dropped. "It's beautiful." Jason paused, taking in the moment and letting the warmth fill him. It was a reminder that even the darkest of storms can lead to brilliant clear skies. In that moment, he realized the power of their unity was a storm of its own, one that could shatter the barriers within their community. "Let us take this light with us," Jason declared, lifting his head high. "Let us show everyone that we aren't defined by our past. We are changemakers." His voice soared, cutting through the remnants of doubt. With renewed vigor, they set forth as one, stepping back towards the heart of the town. The street was still alive with energy, but they were no longer paralyzed by fear. The echo of their chant rippled through the air like music, resonating a truth that had all but been forgotten. They approached small knots of people still filled with uncertainty, opening their arms, inviting dialogue, fostering understanding. "Let us show you," Mia called, reaching hands out to those who had once turned away. "Let us celebrate our differences and create hope together." The crowd parted, allowing them to reach those once barricaded by fear. Faces softened as people listened, absorbing their courage. "It's okay to feel vulnerable," Rick spoke gently. "But it's not okay to give in to hate. Let us build a community that thrives on compassion." As they walked, shoulders brushing against each other in solidarity, laughter began to replace the tension. Hushed whispers turned into conversations. Stories unfolded about pain, about mistakes, and, most importantly, about healing. Each shared moment was a patch woven into the fabric of their community, stitching together a vision that was both hopeful and resilient. A woman stepped forward, tears glistening in her eyes. "I didn't believe until now," she said softly. "I thought I was alone. Thank you for reminding me that we can change." Jason felt a rush of emotion, one he hadn't expected, weaving through the crack of despair. The warmth of connection surged amid the chaos. Their community was transforming right before his eyes. In that powerful moment, staring into the eyes of those who were once adversaries, he realized something profound. They were all misunderstood victims of their own fears, but they were also architects of a future built on hope and understanding. As the sun dipped towards the horizon, enveloping their town in a surreal amber glow, Jason breathed in deeply. "This is our new beginning," he whispered, the truth resonating in his heart. "We'll stand united, embracing our imperfections and shadows." Moments later, they reached the center of town, gathering in front of the community hall, where Jenna and the rest of the townsfolk awaited. Hope Fest was not just an idea now, it was a reality woven from shared dreams and renewed faith, a promise for a brighter tomorrow. As one voice, they cheered, filling the air with the echoes of change that would ripple through their lives for years to come. "Let us build this legacy together," Jason shouted, raising his arms, and the crowd erupted in exhilaration, joy swirling in the air like confetti, and just like that, they stepped forward as one. This was a new chapter, a story of healing inscribed in the hearts of a community ready to forgive and uplift. Together, they embraced the hope flickering brightly on the horizon, ready to light their path forward. Now, this is your moment to take action. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support means everything.